I personally believe that the decisions always should be with a human operator, even if it's a highly automated system. You can also argue that the move from a sword to a tank has highly automated a lot of things, but has not taken the decision away. I think that's really, really important from a moral perspective.
Welcome to Disrupted. I'm Elena Casas. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, both sides have fought with unmanned drones. In Ukraine's case, cheap attack drones have helped fill some of the gaps created by long waits for Western weapons deliveries. Ukraine has used them for everything from attacks on Russian soil to demining and even delivering leaflets to Russian troops aiming to persuade them to surrender. But swarms of drones need software to coordinate them, and that's where operating system Auterion comes in. Its systems power drones for cargo delivery, but they do also have defence-specific applications. And CEO Lorenz Meier joins me now. Lorenz, thank you so much for joining us. How has the use of unmanned drones changed the course of the conflict?
So initially it was all driven by innovation literally in trenches at the front line. But Ukraine has done a lot to professionalize its industry, which was also necessary because we're talking about over 1 million, potentially over 2 million drones used by Ukraine just this year. And that meant that manufacturers moved from building drones on the literal kitchen table into building drones in the hundreds of thousands in factories. So we now have a professional mass-scale industry that does not exist across NATO or across the wider Western industry.
The unmanned forces of Ukraine were launched in June as a separate branch of the country's armed forces, and dozens of Ukrainian startups are working on AI-enabled software, allowing drones to identify targets, map terrain, and communicate with one another to coordinate an attack, alongside international firms like Auterion, which also works with the US and UK armed forces. The defence side of its business is subject to US export restrictions.
We're the first company to introduce the concept of an app store for drones. So rather than having one proprietary software block, we enable third parties to install applications on the drone that change its capabilities. For example, it can now deliver cargo, or it can create a 3D map, or in warfare, it can do terminal guidance on a target.
When you founded your company in 2018, it focused on civilian applications like cargo delivery. You provide an operating system to Walmart for deliveries. Did you imagine at the time that it would have defence applications?
I would never have imagined that we would live in a time that is not quite comparable to World War II, thank God, but of massive technological breakthrough innovation fueled by warfare that at a scale that we all thought is in history. So yes, it has changed things dramatically. We have started to not hold back, even with armed drones, because we believe if we have the best software ecosystem, it would be unfair to hold back this technology from Ukraine.
Should we be developing autonomous weapons at all, though, given the potential risks?
I personally believe that it's absolutely crucial that the moral decisions are in the end with a human operator. And I think it's up to governments to decide how much automation they want or need and how to regulate that.
Russia, Iran and China are, of course, also building unmanned drone systems. Are you concerned that NATO countries could lose the global competition in getting ahead in this technology?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned because I see Russia using the same number of drones as Ukraine is using. I'm seeing a very tight alignment between the use of drones of Russia and the Chinese supply chain. And yes, we have to bring up our capabilities. Otherwise, we risk in a future conflict of Western soldiers facing adversarial autonomous systems. And we need to bring our own forces into a position where we at least have our own unmanned systems.
Do you think this will save lives in conflict, or could it increase civilian death tolls?
I personally believe that the decisions always should be with a human operator, even if it's a highly automated system. You can also argue that the move from a sword to a tank has highly automated a lot of things, but has not taken the decision away. I think that's really, really important from a moral perspective. But I do believe that we have to make sure that we give Ukraine and other liberal democracies the technology that's necessary to fend off aggression right now.
Would you work with Israel?
Israel has a very strong domestic defense base. So from a commercial perspective, it's actually a hard market for us. So it's not a question that poses itself so quickly. I would say we will follow our code of ethics. We have seen a strong democracy in Israel over the years in a very difficult environment. And so why would we move away from our own moral compass?
Lorenz Meier, CEO of Auterion, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.